You're storing memories to lose them again. You'll forget everything when this whole thing ends. You can't even predict what tomorrow brings, but don't lose track of living in the present.
Welcome to the Memory Distillery, everyone. I'm Anthony Verneri.
And I'm John Deck, and each week we will malt, mash, ferment, and distill our way through the spirits of our past in the form of long-loved movies.
And this week, 2 weeks. That's right, we are watching Total Recall from 1990, directed by Paul Verhoeven. This is not our first Paul Verhoeven movie, but
yes,
it's the first one that
is.
you've been
it is
involved
ours.
with.
It is our first one.
Ours, yes. The show's.
You tricked me into it.
Not the show's first Paul Verhoeven movie.
RoboCop Schmobocop.
Yeah, who's that Fernando guy anyway? Love you, Fernando. You're my good buddy.
Speaking of Fernando, the best quote you could get for this movie was 2 weeks.
Well, I didn't have, I was a little ill prepared. I apologize. Would you rather screw you?
I mean, I wasn't expecting a full-blown Arnold Schwarzenegger impression like that. You gotta warn me. You knock my socks off, but
made me wish I had 3 hands.
I'm just saying, knowing you, that's where I thought you were going right off the bat.
Well, I would have had a sound drop, but again, ill prepared. My fault. We'll move on and forward, and
we'll make up for it with outstanding hilarity.
Yeah. So, when was the last time you saw this, John?
No clue. A long time ago. I think it's more interesting to talk about the first time I saw it, though.
Oh, yes.
This back in the day.
Did your dad buy you the novelization of it?
You wish. No, it would actually I probably would have been better served just to read some more Philip K. Dick when I was younger. But what happened was, this was, I want to say, around the end of my high school years. I'd gotten my hand on a VCR. That stands for video cassette recorder, and I can't get into the logistics of it for 80% of the people listening. But just trust me, this is a good story in my head. At any rate, this was a big deal because I had procured my first TV, a broken TV at a garage sale being given away for free, and I repaired it, and I had a TV to myself, and that was very exciting for me. And then I got my hands on a VCR, and that was also very exciting because it meant I could now watch movies because we didn't have like cable or anything, or we had like HBO every once in a while. I think we've talked about before. Anyway, yes. So in my excitement, I remember I went to Sam's Club with my mom, and when we were there, I saw a 2-pack of VHS for 2 movies I've never seen before, but they both seemed like they have people in it I like. This is going to be fun. So I got Total Recall, which was packaged with The Fugitive with Harrison Ford. And I'd heard of the movies. I had not seen either. And it was the first time that I ever even contemplated the idea of actually, I didn't have a lot of money. This was a big deal. So I shelled out the money for this 2-pack. Very excited. And for my young high school teenage brain, it was quite the value. I really enjoyed both of them very much. I haven't seen either in a long time. I did try to watch that 2012 remake, but I honestly can't even tell you if I got all the way through it or not because it just did nothing for me.
I didn't even bother watching it, so...
So that's my story to not really answer your question, because that answer is I have no clue. It's definitely over 10 years at the minimum.
Oh, easily for me too. Probably closer to 20 or 25 for me, in fact.
Yeah.
The first time I watched this was probably at a mostly inappropriate age for someone to watch Total Recall. I was probably 8. I probably watched this right after it came out. Like, my dad got it on, got it at Blockbuster or wherever. Blockbuster is where we used to get our movies before there was a Netflix, and then Netflix put Blockbuster out of business.
Wait, so Blockbuster was the online service of which you streamed your movies before Netflix?
Exactly, except instead of online, it was in store, and except instead of streaming, you went and paid money to borrow a video cassette that would go into a VCR or
wait.
DVD.
These cassettes and DVDs, how did they fit the whole internet on them?
Well, it's wireless, so.
Well, the technology will always be very interesting to me. I think instead, and we could talk about that for days because I know a lot more things to say about that. But to tell you the truth, I mean, I kind of just want to watch this because, well, I'll give you this tidbit as well. Growing up, my older brother and I, we bonded a lot over watching Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. So whether they were,
think you've mentioned this on the show as well.
So good, bad, or indifferent. Wait, have we watched any other Arnold movies?
Oh yeah, we watched Terminator 2.
There we go. See, that all makes sense now. But yeah, like I still, even some of the worst Arnold movies are still, I can have some fun with them even if they're bad. Not all of them. There's a handful that are just almost unwatchable, but something only has to be kind of mediocre or fun, or, you know, there could be a lot of elements to it that, you know, can make me enjoy it just because, unlike Nick Cage, who he's got to do an awful lot to make me like one of his movies, but he's pretty good at hosting that documentary about swearing on Netflix,
which I still need to watch. It looks fantastic.
It's funny. He hams it up, but it fits really well. So
speaking of watching things, why don't we go and watch this?
Yeah.
And speaking of Netflix, it is streaming on Netflix right now. If you want to go catch it there, great. Otherwise, you know how to get movies. Go to one of the streaming rental services or get it from your personal library.
Or Blockbuster.
Or go to the Blockbuster. Go to your local Blockbuster. There's at least one left. And when we come back, we are talking Total Recall. John, are you ready?
We'll be back.
Let's do it.
I don't care what you call the drugs that you use. It's no excuse.
First of all, it's not a drug. It's a virtual sex experience, and I would appreciate it if you respect my boundaries.
Speaking of transitions.
Actually, I think it's a good way to open the show.
All right, then I guess we're in it.
We're in it. Welcome back, everyone. We just got done watching Total Recall. Now, I don't know if we said this up top. I didn't watch the remake. Did you watch the remake, John?
I tried at some point, but I honestly can't remember if I made it through the whole thing or not because it was rough.
Okay, cool. Then I'm not even going to sweat it or try to make comparisons to it. We'll
Don't sweat it.
We'll compare this to itself, its own thing. I mean, on the whole, I thought that this was a pretty good flick. Like, I had fun watching it. And I didn't have too many substantial complaints about it. What about you?
I know traditionally I seem to be in love or hate something.
Correct. You are an extremist in that regard.
Yeah.
Not an extremist like we experienced recently, but
on the other podcast, Love Actually podcast.
Correct.
No, I found myself kind of enjoying it. There were elements that, you know, I'll just say it wasn't horrible and it wasn't perfect. It was somewhere in the middle. And in fact, I feel like just talking through this and getting a chance to dig in with you on the experience, I do feel like somewhere along this conversation, I feel like I'm going to be able to formulate and share with you my plan for how I would make it a great movie. But for now, let's talk about it as it is.
Okay.
And in that regard, I feel that it. Trying to think of the best way to phrase it. I'll just say that there were a lot of elements here that are not, you know, in your typical heavy sci-fi movie, but there's also elements of this that are a bit more sophisticated than your typical action movie. So like tread some interesting lines genre wise, where it was just balancing between, the almost noir sense of mystery and figuring out what's going on with identities and with the different planets and all this stuff, but at the same time, not afraid to use a whole lot of squibs.
Oh my God, so many squibs.
There's no CGI. Well, not none, but not a lot of CGI. Lots of practical effects, which I appreciate.
So many blood squibs, like Jesus Christ.
And like the mutant effects, a lot of those. Well, obviously there's some bits of puppetry and things, but like practical puppetry. There's some matte painting in the backgrounds and some typical things like that. But by and large, a lot of these effects, a lot of what we were seeing. That didn't involve not CO2, but oxygen clouds, was practical. So yeah, I enjoyed the tangibility of it, the atmosphere, the building of it, and if you ever wondered whether or not one of the tools in Arnold Schwarzenegger's acting toolbox was whether or not he could scream, wonder no more. He has not 2, not 5, but about 9 different scenes with a protracted, like longer than 10-second long, pained, excruciating, face contorting scream. Like it was the theme of the movie. It just kept happening over and over and over and over and over again. Sometimes it was a dream, sometimes it was real, sometimes it was Mars, sometimes it wasn't. It was like all over the place. Lots of screaming.
So I'm so glad you said it could be real, it could be a dream, it could be Mars, it could be whatever. We don't really know at any point, do we?
Well, that's the problem. See, that's one of the problems.
But it's not, because we're talking about a Philip K. Dick story here, and that's his whole shtick.
No, I'm saying the problem is they didn't go deep enough into that. They played with it, it danced around it, but then it kind of took the easy way out and left you more or less feeling like you have a solid lock on, we had questions maybe once or twice, but by and large, the good guy was the good guy. And which, that I'm not saying that's literally what happened, but I'm saying I believe the vast majority of people who are watching this would just go along and take it at that level.
See, I disagree, because I feel like, in particular, the scene with the doctor and Laurie showing up, and like he's trying to convince him to exit the program, like to take to take a pill or something like that to exit the program, or I guess the Matrix borrowed from that later on. But that whole sequence, like he shoots the doctor, quote unquote doctor, in the head. We don't really know for sure. And like we see the sweat, but that's a situational thing. Like if I were pretending, or if I were trying to get somebody who's stuck in a computer program, who's holding a virtual gun to my virtual head out, I would probably still be nervous, because it's
well, he was trying
feels real,
but he was trying to play off like he has nothing to lose and he wouldn't mind if he got shot. I mean, he literally told him, though, to me, it wouldn't bother me at all if you killed me, but for you, it'd be really bad consequences. So, like, that whole idea of, and now I agree, yes, technically, this wouldn't hold up in a court of law. He sweat, therefore I shot him. But it's just like, that part, and again, you have a number of touches that if you're looking for it, if you're digging, if you're looking for examples, yeah, absolutely. But for the mainstream, watching it from beginning to end, I think they set up a bunch of questions. They have you doubt, and at the end, it's almost like they're saying it doesn't matter. So maybe it doesn't resolve perfectly, but I think there's intriguing stuff with that examination of the Hauser persona, and like was this really, like, which personality was actually the quote unquote real true dominant one? Was Hauser one that was just created when Quaid was originally captured and brainwashed and turned into Hauser, thinking now he's my best buddy and best weapon, but then he was the original program originally who is, so like there's a lot of circular, like who was what first when, and you don't get clear-cut questions on or answers to that. So I do think there's some interesting stuff that's built in there. but it's not really played up to make you, the viewer, totally unsure of what's happening at any given point in time. And I think that might be could have been an interesting take on this. Not going like American Psycho, where it's just traveling all along, and then when you get to the end, you go, oh, so it was all a dream. But like, where it's more throughout, you're just having questions where it could be more than one possibility, not whether it's real or not, just that there could be a lot more questions. I think for me might make it even more engaging.
I agree completely. Not that it has anything to do with this movie, and not that we would ever, go off on a tangent, but that I feel like that's something that other properties do really, really well. Like if you look at, say, Black Mirror, for example, like Black Mirror does that to a T, and there are episodes where you just don't know, and you are left wondering. And granted, there are others where they resolve and they go, oh yeah, this is actually what's happening. A good one being the guy who like backpacked around the world and like went and he was infiltrating something and ended up, he had his cell phone in there and it scrambled his brain or whatever. Spoilers. But that's like, more often than not, you're left in those kind of the mind fuck sort of episodes. Like that's they tend to leave that on a cliffhanger, or on like an unsure spot. And I feel like that's something that a better version of this movie would do.
Yeah, like there are elements to that within Black Mirror, but a lot of the episodes are pretty self-contained, and they may completely screw with your perceptions and may not be what you expect, and you little twists that take you for a ride and stuff like that. But they have most of them, I'd say, have some sort of beginning, middle, and end, even if it's not, you're not ending up at where you think you're going to go. Same like take like Westworld season 1. Like one of my favorite seasons of TV, like of all TV, even if subsequent seasons fall off the rails a little bit. But like I was engaged with season 1, number 1, because I just didn't quite understand what was going on for a while, but I felt like the clues were being laid out all in front of me. And then there was a lot of payoff for said clues. And so for that's also a different journey. But it's one where I had different theories at different times, or like when Lost first came on the air, like where you're just trying to figure out puzzles and putting pieces together. Like I love that sort of thing. And so I think the fact that this movie doesn't really give you that so much, but I want it to. Like I want it to have more, who's good, who's bad. Is there such a thing as good or bad? Who's going to betray who? What's the nature of reality? Like what it's really being told here, is putting some hot metal into a big chunk of ice going to change the air pressure, not just the atmosphere, the air pressure, because like the thing that makes your eyes bulge out and all that fun, gross stuff is not a lack of air to breathe. It's right, the air pressure. A vacuum. And also, you can't just make oxygen and change the atmosphere, because our atmosphere is mostly nitrogen.
Right. And let's also not forget that Mars actually does have an atmosphere. It just lacks a magnetic field. But anyway.
I mean, so many little technical things. But when you get into sci-fi, as a sci-fi nerd, I feel like I could speak up for my people when I say, if you're going to put on your boots, you got to be prepared to walk, as the saying always has gone since today.
That's correct.
And so
I use that phrase, that saying all the time.
You can't just throw in a little alien MacGuffin if you're in sci-fi territory. Everything's got to line up, and you got to have a little sense, and it's got to add up. So normally we'd say, it's just a Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie. Let's just have fun and not think about whether or not the end of the movie makes any sense. I can't just give that. I can't just say, okay, cool. Like, there are things that I could say, okay, I could say, okay, wrapping a wet towel around your head blocks this tracking signal, but like the rest of the whole city didn't, like walls and cars and electronics, like none of that interferes with the signal, but you just put a wet towel on your head. Like, it's like that's so stupid to me, but fine. I'm going to give it to him because you're allowed to make these conceits. And for all we know, it didn't actually block the signal. This was all a plan by Copenhagen or whatever his name is.
Cohagen, yeah.
And so it's like, okay,
Copenhagen.
fine.
That's great.
If you want to go through all that's fine. So it's just funny. So like there are a bunch of those little things, but that happens in movies sometimes. And those aren't the things that really make me feel the movie didn't succeed. And again, it wasn't bad. I kind of enjoyed it. There were elements that I thought this is really close, but I was a little frustrated that it never quite got to be great. It was just kind of good. But I could tell you what really did suck were those opening credits.
Those opening credits were so bad.
It felt like I was in the front row seat of a movie theater because it wasn't quite cropped properly on my screen. Like I felt like it was going to keep bleeding off the edge, and then it was just like not centered properly, and the kerning was a little weird. And like
I got this sense like I was watching the opening credits on a bad NES game.
Mm-hmm.
Like
100%.
that was the feeling that I had.
Either a bad NES game or like one of the early VHS copies of a movie that like
a B movie.
Yeah, but at any rate, it was just the only reason I mentioned it is because it felt so long. Like I didn't look at the time, but it had to be at least a good 2 minutes of.
Oh yeah, those opening credits were long as fuck.
So that wasn't a great first impression. But then we got to the towel scene around his head and some very, very minor racist jokes and references throughout.
Yeah.
Again, in today's day and age, I know it's interesting. I mentioned this before that I was just watching the History of Swear Words little mini documentary series, which I found to be entertaining and fun and educational. But it made me, they ask a few questions at the end. It makes me think, moving forward in time, if you take the development of culture and society and what's offensive now, just simply saying fuck is not like, that doesn't hit at the heart of young people and go, oh, I can't believe you did that. But if you said some like racial epithet, or if you made fun of someone for being, transgender or something, it's like, oh my God, that is unacceptable. So those are the lines that are being drawn now instead of just references to like sex or excrement or stuff like that. So it's like, so it's interesting now. I'm watching this. I don't know how many times people swore in this. I imagine quite a bit. It just doesn't even register. But I did catch when he's like, sorry for being an Indian giver, or, whatever that like phrase was. And I go, ooh, like,
oh, I didn't even hear that.
Yeah. Like, so it's just like, there's just one or two little phrases that honestly, it's not like cancel culture. I'm never watching this movie because of that phrase. It's just that awareness that there were just phrases, and every once in a while in my daily life, confession time, I'll accidentally say a word or phrase that it was just used all the time growing up that I just have no cognizant connection to the relevant insensitivity. But I learn and I grow, and I'm not going to become a generic old white man who doesn't think I need to relearn anything. My point is, Total Recall doesn't really want to bridge those gaps either. So,
well, okay, but to be fair, you and I, being middle-aged white guys, are existent and have faculties and things like that. This is a movie that is static and was filmed in 1990 or released in 1990 at least, and will forever remain. It's not as though movies evolve unto themselves and change their dialogue and things like that. Some do.
Oh, you don't know? That's right.
I haven't seen those movies yet. But no, like
2001 Part 3.
Oh, 2004.
The ever-changing movie that evolves via AI.
Ah, gotcha. Well, in this movie, it doesn't happen, but like you're right. Like I am constantly working to be better and more cognizant of like the who I'm being offensive toward, and the words that I use, and the people who I may or may not hurt with them. And so, like, I'm
Okay.
I'm very aware of that.
Speaking of hurting people, he's got a clone watch, right?
Yes.
At the end, there's one of those final shootout scenes when he first uses this clone watch to great effect.
The Holowatch, yeah.
The Holowatch, where his copy, his intangible copy, walks into the middle of like 18 guys all pointing their guns at each other or at this hologram.
That bothered me so much.
They fire for a solid 10 seconds directly at this hologram that's in the middle of all of them. Nothing happens. And then just 2 minutes later...
2 seconds later,
okay.
He steps out.
Well, no, that's different. I'm talking about with Melina. Just 2 minutes later, he tosses her the watch, and her quote-unquote, hollow double runs in between just two guys, and they shoot each other through her.
And it works just fine.
And she kind of winks at the camera, like, ha, I'm the smart, sassy girl, and I figured it out. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. Good for you. Why didn't that happen a few seconds ago when all 400 guys were shooting directly at each other?
Fuck, that bothered me so much.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there watching. Okay, why is no one dropping from all of these bullets? God damn it.
So let's talk about things we enjoyed in the movie, that we both agree it's a good movie, that we liked it. Like, what things stick out to you? What's good here?
So you had mentioned earlier prosthetics, and like the mutant makeup and stuff like that. The mutants weren't the only ones who got prosthetics. Like, we did get some, like we had mentioned, for the vacuum effects and things like that. And granted, right now, like today, especially given what we see in every movie that's released in 2020 or 2021 or whatever, every movie in the last 10 years, like we get a really good sense of, or we get really good effects today, and it's not something that we even have to really think about just because it's so well done in most cases. It's pretty noticeable now, like, that these are prosthetics and rubber or whatever. I remember thinking back then how cool it was.
Yeah.
Like how the effects were so neat, especially like in the customs area on when they arrive on Mars, and the 2 weeks thing, and taking the head off of Quaid. He presses the thing, and the head like segments off of him. And he lifts it up and it segments back into itself, and he throws it. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, I totally remember being wowed by that. And I think that's a nice middle ground. Like, that's that combination between practical effect and then just a touch of the, CGI for editing, I believe. Obviously it wasn't all practical. It's an actual woman playing the part before it turns into the diverging mask effect thing.
Right.
So like there is some transition there, but it's, especially for a movie of this age and time, it's done rather seamlessly. It's a cool, fun little effect, and like I understand what they are going for with the mutation effects and the story that they're trying to tell there, and they want you to be uncomfortable. They want you to. This isn't a cool scar, these are kind of grotesque things going on to express the inhumanity of the situation and all that good stuff. But like they could have simply just gone the makeup route and made things kind of burn victim gross, but instead embracing that sci-fi mutation side of things. And early on, when he's just stumbling through and you have all the different people who are like offering to read his mind or tell his fortune or all that kind of stuff, it's like the conveyance of this radiation, like not simply disfiguring or mutating, but also bringing with it certain like abilities and all, is interesting that is not played up as much. Like, it's just kind of a side effect, not like something that's embraced too heavily most of the time.
I agree. I actually would have liked to have seen more of that. I think that would have been a really cool aspect. But granted, you only have 2 hours in this movie, so there's only so much that they're going to do. But I think that would even if they had just spent another minute on it, I think it would have been worthwhile. The mutant effects, I agree too. Like not having it just be disfigurement or burn victim-y type things. Like one person in particular who I really liked was Tony, played by Dean Norris. His sort of it almost felt like who's that character in Star Wars? He's
Luke.
No, yes, like Luke Skywalker. No, he's one of the Hutts. He's like Jabba the Hutt's main guy, like his right hand man. Anyway.
Yeah, Darth Vader.
Sure. Anyway, it felt a bit like that to me. If you look up Jabba the Hutt, you'll see the guy I'm talking about. But anyhow, one of the things I thought was kind of neat was seeing the sorts of product placement we got back in 1990.
Yeah. Pepsi.
Pepsi, that old Pepsi logo. There was like Fujifilm and Trinitron and stuff like that. But then, like, you still get the Hilton, and then there was Jack in the Box of all things.
Yeah.
And the old Jack in the Box logo. I was like, oh shit, that's. I didn't even realize
the
that
Hilton
was in here.
thing is funny because that ties together our space themes so far.
Yes.
Hilton product placement in every movie we've
Hilton
watched.
in the remaining 2 space movies that we watch. But yeah, no, I thought that was all very cool. What things did you particularly like in this movie?
Remember that one scene where the guy cleared his throat?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was my impression for the episode.
That was spot on.
I like I said, like I do like the conceit, the setup, the idea of not quite understanding what's a dream and what's not, especially when there's actual physiological reasons and things where you're not just dealing with taking one person's word over another person's word, but you can follow the logic of, you know, like when what's his face shows up, like we were saying, and he's trying to explain how, no, you never actually woke up. This is all a thing. Like to walk through and think, oh, wait a second, maybe. But like by that point, I think you're kind of sold on the idea that this isn't all just a dream. They wouldn't, would they? No, they wouldn't. You know, so it's like, it doesn't quite go there, but I like that setup. I like that feeling. I think, you know, the Sharon Stone as kind of the badass double agent person, you know, works well. Like, I thought that was kind of fun. Like, it's hard to watch, especially any like 90s and earlier Arnold Schwarzenegger movie without realizing he's nothing but like a meaty boy superhero type guy.
Right.
And so like to buy into like the beginning of, oh, I just want to go on vacation. I'm a regular guy. And like that transition to, but I'm really badass killer guy. It's like, that didn't shock me at all. It's like, yeah, I knew he was going to go there. Like, that's, of course, it's Arnold. He's going to go there. You know, the jackhammering thing, you know, of course, you know, got to show off the muscles and all.
Shot them guns.
But I love that side by side with what's his face, who plays the guy he worked with.
Oh.
who is just a different kind of meaty boy. And,
yes. Meaty in different places.
Yeah. But it's just that I enjoyed that, you know, little side by side comparison. That was fun. But yeah, like there were elements of this that at times almost felt like a less fun Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Because you kind of have, well, it's the traveling between, you know, the two different worlds, the sci-fi elements of, you know, like, and like mystery of like, what are we trying to prevent? What's actually happening? What's at the core of the problem here? And you kind of going through that journey. It's not at all the same movie, of course, in almost every way, but there are elements that kind of mirror that I enjoy. And yeah, like I just kind of like the overall idea and how it's implemented. And I guess that's a good transition just to say, I keep talking about how I wish it were a little different, a little bit better. Like, I think aside from the fact that I'd want to dig in deeper into that whole idea of, is this real or a dream? Is this good or bad? Is there such thing as good or bad? Did I just root for the bad guy the whole time? Like, besides playing with that, which I would love to do, I feel like you almost have to, not only because we'd be filming from scratch, but you have to kind of rethink slightly, or I have to rethink slightly, the types of people who I might imagine dreamcasting.
God, I love it.
In stereo.
In stereo.
Yeah, I feel like as I was watching, I wasn't just thinking, with Quaid, you know what? I'd get The Rock, because The Rock's kind of like a modern day Arnold Schwarzenegger.
See, that was the first place I went to.
Like, and so I thought, oh, that's simple enough. But then I thought, but would he really give me what I want out of this movie? And the answer is no. So I went through with the four of,
because they've made that movie 20 times. If you go watch San Andreas or with the one in the tower where he has a prosthetic leg for no reason,
Skyscraper, maybe,
might be,
I don't know, but yeah. So at any rate, I thought, recasting a couple of the main parts here to fit my vision of what I want the movie to be made sense. I know you kind of did this on your own without me talking about what I wanted to change in the movie, but I'm curious where you ended up on some of these. So where do you want to start? Should we just go for the main man himself?
Yeah, let's do it.
Douglas Quaid.
Randy Quaid.
If that's it. Got it in one.
No, Douglas Quaid. I had Jeremy Renner.
Interesting. Tell me why.
I feel like he fits the bill. I think that he can play that sort of duality of both Quaid and the other one. Quaid was also Hauser. There you go. I think that he could do both of them pretty well, and I think that as we've seen in the Marvel films, he can be conflicted and constantly questioning himself and questioning his reality. So I think that's why I picked.
I think it's a solid pick. It's a solid pick. Like, to me, Jeremy Renner didn't have enough of the extremes that I would like. Like, he doesn't usually come across as like kind of super wide-eyed innocent, and he doesn't come across as kind of like nefarious or evil either. Like, he can go those directions, but like he just didn't have enough for what I wanted. I kind of envisioned, like, I just wanted someone who's kind of fresh-faced, someone who might come across as, you might believe that he's just naive and not into this whole world, but once he's absorbed into the world, then he could be Hauser or he could be Quaid. You just don't know. Like, I wanted some raise some eyebrows and figure out what's going on. And like, if this person wasn't so old, I definitely would have picked Colin Firth.
Ooh, okay.
Especially after what he did, like in the Kingsman movies and all. Like, I think he can come across as just so sweet and nice, but then he can have an edge to him immediately. But
just like in Love Actually.
Exactly, just like in Love Actually. And so, but he's getting into his upper 50s, and that's just kind of throws off and skews a bit of my other ideas for the rest of the cast. Not that being old is necessarily exclusionary, but I did not want to go Taron Egerton just because he's the protege in Kingsman and like, oh, he's the younger version of him. But that did get me thinking, and someone who, purposefully never listens to this show because he's just wanting to spite us, William Randall. I was just having a conversation about the general concept, and he brought up Ansel Elgort.
That would be a fine choice.
Yeah, and I instantly was like, yes, Baby Driver. I know he's done a couple other things, but
that's his bread and butter, I think.
And I think he just is, kind of underrated as an actor, and not just in that role, but like in terms of potential. Like, he can be a bit gangly, a bit goofy, a bit like, what's this guy's deal? But then I think he could just kind of be, just turn a gear and lock down, and you can really train him up in some more martial arts, and I think he could take that on. I'd want to give him that chance as an actor.
And I think he could. I think it's a switch for him too. I don't think it has to be a slider where it takes him time. I feel like he can just turn it on and turn it off, and I think that's probably why he's a great pick for that. What about Laurie Quaid, the Sharon Stone character?
Now, it's funny because the person who I envisioned for this is, like when I said, I didn't pick The Rock just because I wanted the modern day equivalent of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I accidentally did pick like the modern day equivalent of Sharon Stone in terms of just like in terms of, I wouldn't say acting roles and all that stuff, but I'll just say I picked Margot Robbie.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say who I initially had in mind, and I changed. Because initially I had Scarlett Johansson in this role, but then I figured I already have Jeremy Renner in the Douglas Quaid role, and this is just going to turn into the Avengers, or a S.H.I.E.L.D. reunion or something, and I wasn't really prepared for that. So I went a little different, and I don't know necessarily that she's the right one for this role, but I feel like she maybe has the right look for it, and I went with January Jones.
Ah, interesting. I mean, I know her from a few things, but I just don't automatically think of her as having any sense of physicality in terms of like being dangerous and lethal in that kind of way. But that doesn't mean she can't do it or couldn't learn. I kind of thought with Margot, I just think of the physicality that she demonstrated, as Harley Quinn and stuff. That like, besides just being a great actress, that she also could very easily learn all the blocking and choreography and stuff for like cool fight scenes and things like that. Plus, I feel like she really is good at like can really keep you guessing about like motivations, and she could be good, then be a traitor, but then try to win you back by convincing you that that part wasn't true. Like I could see her going back and forth and really selling it.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Margot Robbie's definitely the better pick between her and January Jones. It's just. That's where my head went for some reason.
Well, where did your head go for Melina then?
So Melina, I don't know. I had a little bit of trouble with it, with the dreamcasting for Melina, who I keep almost saying Melania, and it's bothering me, and I'm like having to like consciously not. But anyway, for Melina, I had Mila Kunis.
Not bad at all. The pick I came across just stumbled into my brain, and like I feel like going for a bit of that quote unquote darker character, not necessarily in terms of physicality, but in that edginess. But I did want someone who could also sell or put forth that idea of, who is she really out for? Is she good? Is she bad? Is there such a thing? Is there a gray area? Can she be emotional in one moment and disconnected in another moment? And so I went with Christina Ricci.
Ah, I like that.
And I don't know if I've ever seen her in a very, physical action-y role, but I just feel like...
That would probably be my only concern is the physicality. I don't know that she has done the physicality part.
Yeah, but that's what training's for. She's got the acting chops. I bet she'd have a blast.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, down to Cohagen. I think that's the last one we're going to do.
I believe it's pronounced Copenhagen.
Copenhagen. So, Mr. Denmark is for you.
Yes. Are you trying to slowly tell me what the answer is, or
No, I'm trying to get you to tell me what your answer is, because I have the right answer, and I want to hear yours first.
No, I have the right answer. And again, my answer is correct because I needed someone who you could equally believe is either the good guy or the bad guy. And that if he's the bad guy, that you 100% can buy into the fact that what he's selling you is actually, this is a good thing. This is good for, what's going on and stuff like that. I have Ed Harris.
See, I had an Ed Harris type, but not Ed Harris.
So you went for the inferior Ed Harris type.
No,
but not
I
Ed
actually
Harris.
went for the superior because Ed Harris really is more of a Malcolm McDowell type, which is who I went with.
Gonna have to agree.
You're gonna have to agree. Agree.
I'm not gonna agree or disagree. I'm gonna degree.
John says that Malcolm McDowell is the right one, and everyone clapped because that was the right choice. Great job, John.
Nice use of the effects, but
That's right.
Okay, we're not gonna agree on this one because we both think we're right. I think we got to leave it up to the audience to vote.
I agree
Which
with that statement.
we'll have to see what kind of feedback we get on that. So if we take all that into account, I really do feel that I wouldn't want to I hate the idea of rebooting this movie again, reimagining, whatever, especially because according to most reviews and people, failed miserably in 2012 or whenever that was. But listen to this, and you may already know this, but if we look at 2012, they got Quaid, they have Colin Farrell. For Laurie, they have Kate Beckinsale. For Melina, they have Jessica Biel. And for Copenhagen, they have Bryan Cranston. They had a good cast.
They did.
This was not bad. I mean, Bill Nighy's even in the movie. But
okay, but look at how many movies we've seen.
Yeah.
Where they get these killer fucking all-star casts and it shits the bed.
Well, that's why I said, I mean, the actors and actresses don't make it. But if I'm going to be rewriting and reimagining it, I want to make sure the actors and those can convey the vision I have. So, you're right. It's not just about the cast, obviously, from many different examples that we have. But I think in this case, our dream casting, along with some dream writer wrangling and a bunch, get Neil Gaiman on the case, and
God, yes, Neil Gaiman
and just
writing this. Oh my God,
there could just be a lot of fun tied into that kind of thing. So that's where I'm at. That's my big takeaway here.
Yeah, I agree. This has been
dreamcasting. I think that could be its own spin-off show.
It's a mini pod. So I have a final question for you. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about before I ask it?
Dying for that final.
All right. So the year is 20XX, and we live in a world where recall is possible, and they can implant they can implant anything in your head, but you are going to take a recall vacation. Where are you going?
I am going to go hiking in Peru, specifically in the area around leading to Machu Picchu. Because it's a place I've longed to go to for a long time. When I was younger, I used to have dreams about the place and felt like some connection for reasons I to this day have no idea why. But as I'm not much of a flyer, I've literally looked into the whole process of getting there, not flying, whether it's driving, taking a boat, and then a train. There are options. It's possible, but a huge pain in the ass and just almost not possible. So to skip all that and to just get the memories, and if I'm gonna, I'll slide an extra couple hundred credits for them to not include the memory of flying there and back.
Well, hell, at that point, you could just include the memory of getting down there on the ground / water.
Yeah, but that wouldn't necessarily be the fun part of the trip, or maybe it would. Who knows? I'll let them sort it out as long as it's A-okay and I'm a secret agent.
There you go. Add that secret agent in there.
I don't even want that. Honestly, I don't want to be a successful secret agent. I want to be low-key nothing. I want no drama, nothing exciting. I want enrichment and knowledge and awe and wonder, but not anything crazy. But you, on the other hand...
I think, for me, I'm probably going to space somewhere.
Ooh.
Maybe a moon base, maybe a Martian colony. But what I would almost rather have happen, because so many of Jupiter's moons have so much potential, at that point, in the fiction that they've built, there's no doubt colonies on the Jupiter moons and things like that. So I would want to go to Europa or Io or something like that. I think that would be super cool.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I wasn't even thinking about the limitations or non-limitations of what that would provide. So I think you might win. I clearly won with Ed Harris, and you won with the memory vacation.
Well, the Ed Harris thing, the
people have
jury is
spoken.
out.
The people have spoken. I took a quick action poll on Twitter while you were.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it looks here. 43 say yay. 1 says no. 1 person didn't agree with me. Oh, it was you. It says it was you.
Oh, fuck.
You saw it. You voted.
I had to start using my throwaway account for that.
Yeah.
That's our show, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to us each and every week as we distill another favorite from our past. You can catch new episodes every Monday on all the favorite podcatchers that are out there. Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Stitcher and Google Podcasts and Podbean and all those different ways of getting podcasts. Tell your friends, tell a family member, tell a coworker, tell your neighbor to come and check us out. We are always looking for new people to jump in and listen to our show. And if you feel so inclined, head on over to anchor.fm/thememorydistillery/support to support us with a little of that cabbage, those credits that Quaid was throwing around when he got to Mars, so that we can continue making really cool content for you, the listener.
He did have a lot of that foldable red money.
Much.
I wouldn't mind getting my hands on some of that toy money. I said it weird like that because the music in our podcast comes from the song Destroying the Evidence by Semaphore. Bet you didn't see that one coming.
It's a perfect tie-in.
It always is. And they're the perfect afternoon listening for when you get off work and just want to have 4 or 5 cases of champagne. Once you've consumed that, you'll want to, no doubt, email us. Which you could do so at thememorydistillery@gmail.com. It'll be an interesting time for all of us, I'm sure. You'll clearly remember and be in a state of mind to clearly and concisely tell us what sort of movies you'd like us to be covering coming up in the near future. And you know what? We got a couple weeks left on the space theme, but then who knows what's going to happen? It could be crazy. But yeah, I think you all listening, you made it out of this with a surprisingly small amount of Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions.
Ah.
Oh my god. Yeah. That's not a thing.
That sounded a bit more
Sylvester Stallone.
like Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. I think it would go something like this. Thanks again for listening. I'm Jodick. No, that's not becoming.
That's Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant. Yeah. Let me try again. Thanks again for listening.
That was perfect.
That was my shot for shot of every scene from Total Recall.
Oh, Christ. That's amazing.
John.
And I'm Anthony Verneri, and this has been The Memory Distillery.
That was like the drool out of my beard.